listening to AchieveRadio.com. A new drummer for a new awakening.
Across the realms and around the world, welcome to Outside the Box. Tonight, your host and vessel of spirit is Nancy Zilversmit. We hope that you will learn to have the strength and courage to step outside the box and dwell with spirit, and to leave the old beliefs that hold you down behind you and rediscover your spirituality in new ways. Hello, it is July 29th, 2015. And this show is brought to you by www.sanctuaryofsacredspace.com. And the subject matter today is what matters most in your life. What do you think matters in your life? What really matters in your life? We're going to take a look at that and how people figure that out. And I'm just adjusting my screen here if you're watching the video, making sure I can see everything that's on screen. Because the on-screen is where you log in, or I understand if you call in. If you want to call in and make comments about the material that we're going over today, whether it's the news articles or if it's the subject matter, let me know. And if you want a reading, let's keep the readings to the second half of the show, because I will find time to do those as well. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start on the news stories. We had a few things happen in the news this week, and some of it was here in the United States, and one of my articles is from outside the United States. But here in the United States, federal prisons now recognize humanism as a religion. Humanism is not to be mistaken for atheist. Humanist inmates have requested time and space for activities, to visit with a chaplain, to have their study groups and study materials and literature, and just like people who belong to a formal religion. There was a lawsuit brought by an Oregon inmate, and that's where they decided that they were going to recognize humanism, considering that the U.S. Army decided that they were going to recognize humanism as a religious choice for service members the previous year. There's just been it's been a signal out to people that the government is now having a willingness to accept humanism. They accepted atheism several years ago, but humanism is, like I said, it's a different belief system, even though it's similar. And it recognizes no deity, the same as atheists, no deity, and it emphasizes rational thinking. The settlement was a victory for humanists in federal prisons, and they are no longer denied the rights that religious individuals have. So they also wanted to form study groups in humanism, and humanism is afforded to all the other faiths where they can take time out from whatever they're doing or whatever program's going on, or from being locked up in their cells, and they can go and be with a group of like-minded people. So it's they've agreed that humanism is worldwide, and that the people should have the same rights and recognition enjoyed by inmates of other faiths. And they have their own pastors and chaplains for humanisms, for the humanists. And I wonder what those qualifications are. I know that there's a lot of different qualifications for a chaplain or a pastor to come into a prison system to visit inmates. And I'm just wondering what the qualifications for the humanists would be. But anyway, they bring in literature, they bring in study materials, and they're allowed to celebrate holy days. Now, what is a holy day for a humanist? Well, their holy day is called Darwin Day. And it's the observation of the birthday of Charles Darwin, the naturalist. on February 12th. And it's marked by humanists around the world. If you don't know who Charles Darwin is, he's the gentleman that started the theory of evolution. And so that's one thing that makes them, the humanists, a little bit different from the atheists. They observe Charles Darwin and Charles Darwin's beliefs and what it was that he wrote about. And anyway, it's not known in the United States, out of the 1.6 million inmates, which of them identify with humanists or with any other faith, because they don't keep surveys, supposedly, on the faith of the people that they're incarcerating. But the Pew Research Center surveyed the chaplains in 2012, and they said that it's very common for inmates to try and convert other inmates, and they're often successful. 3/4 of the inmate population plays religious switching constantly. So they have one group witness to them about their faith, and they switch to that religion. Later on, they may have another group that tries to persuade them into their faith, and they'll switch to that group. They said there's a lot of this religious switching is mostly among Muslims and Protestants. But anyway, the humanists, they believe in the ability of mankind to transcend their differences, find some common ground, and make the world a better place. Very similar to what the atheists have, except for just slight differences, But now they get their religious time just as much as anybody else, even though it's really not. Well, they're looking at it now as a religion. There are. Let's see. We had a couple different things happen with Boy Scouts this week. One went for the good, and one is still pulling back on it. And I think that eventually it'll probably fall too. But it's based on the fact that one group is still going to be excluded from their membership, and it's not about the gay leaders. That's the positive one. It's about the fact that you can't even become a Boy Scout or a Boy Scout leader if you do not hold a religious belief according to the pledge that the Boy Scouts have. In their pledge, it says to do my duty to God and my country. It's mostly based on Protestant-based YMCA type stuff, but it accepts all faiths. But no faith is a different matter. If you do not have a faith in God, you can be turned down for being in the Boy Scouts, whether you are a boy or an adult, and you're not eligible at all for membership. It excludes a large and growing demographic. Okay, because there are 23% of Americans right now that do not identify themselves as religious. And Boy Scouts maintains no member can grow to be the best citizen without recognizing an obligation to God. And so they said that you have to have that belief in God. So if you are among those who identify as atheist, agnostic, or otherwise humanist, or any other religion that does not recognize God, then you're not going to be in the Scouts. More youths are growing up in non-religious homes, and why would the organization squander the opportunity to serve and influence these boys? Who can tell? So, yeah. There was an 80-member board approved a resolution on the 27th of July lifting the organization's ban on gays, but they will not and have not lifted the ban on no belief in God. They say that the individual units are allowed to continue the bans. Now, this is something that's been in the Boy Scout history before, where the main organization will approve something, and then they leave it to the individual units whether or not they will accept what is been put out by the the main organization. Now, this kind of backfired in the past. Now, right now, they're doing the same thing with the gays. Individual units can continue to ban gay scout leaders and Boy Scouts. So what it's doing is it's mirroring the discrimination that went on in the 20th century when it was very much segregated. It was very much segregated, and the local councils were allowed to have their own policies on race. And so it meant that in the South, in the era what they call Jim Crow, and it's this era of segregation, it meant that blacks they had to face an uphill climb trying to get into a troop, or they were segregated and told that they had to form their own troop. There was opposition to blacks even wearing the uniforms. There were people that were demonstrating burning the uniforms if there were blacks allowed to become scouts and being permitted. So if you look at the old history of these, people were allowed to be denied membership. And so looking at it now with the ones who do not believe in God, we're going through the same thing. The Church of the Latter-day Saints would not allow blacks into their troops because if a black was barred from priesthood, this is old law. This is old church law. If a black was barred from priesthood, they could also bar them from the scouts. Later on, that did change when there were lawsuits filed against the Church of Latter-day Saints and also against the Boy Scouts. That was changed, but it took time. So it's going to take time with with gays as well. So. On another end, in England, they have the Church of England, and they have had somebody that has challenged something over there. It's put kind of a split into the church because there are many who accept it as it is and many who are totally against it. What is it? Well, they're debating about the ceremony of baptism. And the ceremony of baptism marking a change in someone's life. Now, I know that I've been baptized 3 times, different states of my of my life. The first time I was baptized was Catholic as an infant, which without my knowledge and without my acceptance, it's just the way the religion is, baptize you as an infant so that your soul can go to heaven. And then when I was a teenager, I went into a totally different direction. And under Calvary Chapel at that time, which was run by Chuck Smith and Lonnie Frisbee, the hippie preacher, and I was baptized in the ocean under that. And they were known as at that time, the group that was under Lonnie Frisbee was known as the Jesus People or the Jesus Freaks, whatever. But it was a time in my life when I had a lot of things going on and I wanted to make a change in my life. So I was baptized again. And because the Protestants believe in the baptism in living water, so hence the ocean. And then later, as an adult, many years later, as an adult, I was baptized again here in Arizona, again in living water in a river, even though I didn't need to be. I was asked to be so that certain other people would follow and go through with it as well. So I was baptized in a river. The Salt River was much cleaner back then than it is now. I would not get in it at this time. But anyway, what was this church in England doing? Well, they had somebody who was transgender and wanted to mark the change in their life. It's a new milestone, a new life, a new name, a new identity, and they wanted to be rebaptized in recognition of that new identity. And so it was this gentleman. His name was Nick, and his friends they went to the church. They asked if this could be done so that he could mark his new identity. He's 20 years old. He told his parents earlier in the year he had plans of doing this, going through the gender change and everything else. And so he wanted to discuss this and see if the church would be in on it. Well, to the person who was asking, which was Nick, he said, for me, being part of a church and a community is really important. And to be who I am. When I first came out, it was very important for me to have a service to mark the change. And this is why he asked. And it wouldn't be, and while it couldn't be another baptism, it could be an affirmation of the person I am. So his baptism, it wasn't his original baptism, but it was a baptism of identity and affirmation of who he is. So they made their own service with his vicar. They made their own service. It was about 20 minutes long. It was held with family and friends, and it acknowledged his birth name, his parents, and also his new name, and there were prayers and readings for that, which makes for a nice little ceremony. And the church demonstrated its acceptance with love and marked a milestone as somebody who's transitioning. Well, there is opposition. Also, there are people who are opposing that, and then the argument for the baptism is that they're welcoming somebody on God's behalf. God doesn't reject, and so neither should the church. And so they don't want to discriminate. Whereas there are other people who are up in arms about it, and it's just like the parishioner, one of the fellow parishioners said, you know what, I don't think there's going to be a big request for this because it's not a huge community. I don't see a problem with it. So it's just like, okay, well, time will tell. Time will tell. And I'm sure that there will be more. It may be challenged here in the United States as well, in certain churches, and we'll see what the reactions are. Okay, we're going to move on now. This week we're going to talk about what really matters in your life. Now, if you take your life and you look at a scale, what matters to you? And at different age levels, different things matter to us. As a young infant, what matters is a clean diaper, some love, some mother's milk, and comforting, and being touched, and being held, and loved. And so, very basic, very basic. Love and take care of my primary needs. As a child gets a little bit older, their wants and needs are different. What matters to them? It may be that they want their certain stuffed animal to go to bed with them. They want you to give them a story. That they want food at a certain time, or they want to pick out their own wardrobe. So as things go on, what matters to people, it depends on their maturity. When my 4-year-old granddaughter went with me to Petco recently, and her mother and her mother's new husband, they were going to go look at the rescue pugs that they had there. They aren't puppies; they're full-grown dogs up for rescue. But I was also taking in my Chihuahua, to which my granddaughter was very much attached, and they grew up together. They're the same age, and to get her nails clipped. And my granddaughter wanted nothing to do with going and looking at the pugs because she was concerned and did not want to leave my Chihuahua because she wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to come to any harm. Well, finally got her out of the vet office and the groomer's office, and so she could observe through a glass, the glass divider. She could observe, and we just had to stay with her while her parents went off and did their thing. Once we got my dog back and in the carrier, everything was okay again, but she was literally in tears because this mattered to her. This mattered to her. So at each age, we have different things that matter to us. In the teenage years, what matters to a teenager? Well, it depends what era they're from, but sometimes friends matter more than family. They learn different later, or if there is some crisis or something, then they learn earlier. But what matters? What matters? Video games, cell phones, computers, blah blah blah. Those may matter to them, but when you ask them, sit them down, what really matters to you? If these things weren't there, what would really matter to you? And have that talk with your kids. You know, what really matters in life other than food and shelter and your parents being there and having clothes on your back and other things. You know, you've got to discuss what really matters. And when they get older, then they start looking in a different direction as to what matters. When they get out of high school and they get into adulthood, and they have to start choosing what are they going to do with their life. And I had my son brought home somebody a couple nights ago, and it was a friend of his who's 19, and we went out to dinner, and I was questioning him about things. You'll hear more about this kid later in the future. But I was questioning him about things, and the first thing I asked him, what are your goals and plans for the future? And these are things that mattered to him because he's going to college. He's 19. He's in college. He's getting good grades. And his goals and plans are, I'm going to get 2 degrees. I'm going to be an accountant, an entrepreneur, and I am going to be taking business management. I want to found a non-tuition higher education school for tribal Native Americans. And so he had his plans. He has his goals. But his parents said, you know what? We're moving to Tucson. You either come with us or you get a job and you stay where you're at and you work full-time, which means he would have to give up his full-time school, which he was on full scholarship. He is on full scholarship. And what mattered to him? What mattered to him is that he was going to have to find a place to live. He's going to have to, his tuition is taken care of. His books are taken care of. He wants to continue his education. Those are his plans and goals. This is what matters to him. And the other thing is he knew he was going to have to get a part-time job, which he did interview yesterday, and he also got the job. Yay. Congratulations. And so he's going to have a part-time job. So he's getting his ducks in a row. He's getting it set up. What matters to him is not just going to work and working anywhere and getting a full-time job, because his parents did not obviously have a value for his education. And he's got his ducks in a row. So at this time in his life, what matters to him is education and accomplishment. And so what matters in your life at this time, and what matters is always going to change. There are some basic things that will stay the same, but there are some things that will change. Accomplishment is one thing that you can look at. Accomplishment, if it matters to you. A career, if it matters to you. Sometimes marriage is what matters. And sometimes people just go out and do it. I had a daughter that eloped after 2 years of dating a couple weeks ago. That's what mattered to them. And I said, fine, save me the expense and stress. I don't have to worry about it. On to the next kid. I have 5 kids. So it's like, what matters to you? And she had her reasons also, and they were very good reasons. So some people, marriage matters, but it also, they want to plan for years, they want to have a big wedding, they want family. To them, that's what matters. Now, on the opposite end, sometimes it's divorce that matters. Okay, for whatever reason of the divorce, people have grown in 2 different directions, and they acknowledge that, or there may be other reasons that are not as pleasant as that. So divorce matters. Okay, I have to get out of this marriage so I can get on with my life. That could matter. Okay, And so letting go, and letting go not only of in a marriage situation, but of other things in your life, the negative aspects in your life. Letting go of habits, letting go of weight gain is something that matters to people, their health, their appearance. What matters at that moment in time, and that you have to let go. You let go of a lifestyle. You let go of a loved one. You let go of a bad relationship. You let go of a car that's broken down. It's many different things. You let go of the clutter in your life. There's a lot of clutter out there. The other thing would be you want to bring some strength in your life, and if you want to bring strength in, and we're talking about physical strength, then you have to exercise, bringing in the strength of exercising, improving your health. Okay, improving your health. Sometimes that is it matters. I have to improve my health. It can be for many different reasons. You don't want to be on cholesterol statins for the rest of your life. You need to drop your weight and change what you're eating and your lifestyle. Get up and move. You're pre-diabetic. You don't want to go any further than that. You want to bring that blood sugar down into the normal range. You've got to change your lifestyle and the way you eat. And exercising is also a part of that. What matters to you? Sometimes people like to donate time. And donating time is, I don't mean going out and doing big voluntary jobs, working at food banks or helping the homeless or whatever. Donating time can be those things, but it also can be just sitting there listening to a person because they need to be listened to. Sometimes a person, that's all they need for them to heal, is to let it go, is to talk it out. And all you have to do is just sit there and compassionately listen to them. And by doing that, you become a part of a person's healing progress. And so what matters sometimes is to help people heal. And listening is a very, very big one. Raising children is what matters during certain periods of people's time. I had 5 kids, and it's stretched out of a long period of time because between child number 1 and child number 2, there was 10 years. And people go, why such a gap in your kids? I'm going, different husbands, okay? Different husbands. And so it's just like I had this big gap, and then I had 4 more kids after the first one. So my period of raising kids was a lot longer than other people's. And I know people that had 12 years between kids. And then after the second one, there was this one situation. She had 1 child, and then she had another marriage, and there were 12 years between his kids. And then she got out of that marriage and got into another marriage with a younger man and had another baby. Oh my God, 12 years between kids. Talk about long span of raising children. But she was happy to do it because it mattered to her. And I have 5 kids, and I'm happy to have gone through that period of life. And it's what mattered at the time. My most difficult child was the oldest child. And what mattered to her as a teenager was the friends, was the being able to do what she wanted to do. And when she finally got married, and the marriage, preparation for marriage was 8 years, that's what mattered to her. Certain things had to be in line. She had to graduate from college. He had to graduate from college. They had to have a house. They had to have this. They had to have that. That's what mattered to them. Then they had the big wedding, and then they had a baby. Now she has 5 kids of her own, and it's just like, can you take care of my 5 kids? No, honey, I've done my time. It's your time. And she remembers, when she was growing up, how she had treated me, and that she's got her oldest child tries to pull all the crap that she pulled. And she sat him down and she said, you know what? I pulled all this crap. I know what you're doing. You can't get it over on me. And so that's what matters to her now, is her family. As a matter of fact, they're out on a camping trip for the week. But raising children. Oh my God, there's another whole show, just raising children and what matters to you. So every moment should matter. Every moment should matter. And you have to understand when you have these moments in your life, you can't repeat them. They're gone. Okay? What I said 5 minutes ago, it's gone. Okay? It's done. So you need to let go of, you need to let go of these things. You have your moment, go on with it. But when you have problems in your life, you need to get through them, but have no regret. Okay? There's worry, there's bitterness, there's all kinds of negativeness. But what matters to you? What matters to you? Okay? So if these things are not going to matter a year down the road, a month down the road, then let go of them. Work through the situation, let go of the bitterness, let go of the regret, let go of the worry, because what matters is what's going on right now in this moment. Okay? So being happy, and we've talked about happiness, did a whole show on that just recently, if you go back through the archive. Being happy is not a destination. It's something that you choose to do, okay? And it's not after you have attained certain things. I have to have this and this and this in order to be happy. No, to be happy, it's a mental state. And if you put yourself into the mental state of happiness and gratitude and be thankful for what you have, then you are going to attract. And that's manifestation and attraction. That's another show that we recently did. You will attract more happiness, okay? So if you are happy about things and get that mental state of mind, go back to the show on happiness and you'll get a lot of information there. And know that you are going to attract more happiness. Who you are. You want to know who you are. Look at your values, okay? Look at your values. And based on the values that you have in your life, that is who you are, okay? If you love deeply and love yourself daily and be a treat to yourself. And once you love yourself, yes, it is possible to love your children and to love relatives and friends and stuff, but you need to love yourself. And when you love yourself, you're going to find that the love overflows, okay? Acceptance of self, love self, share that love, share it with other people. And you'll find that once you love yourself, you're going to attract love as well. And live your purpose. What is your purpose? I get this question from people all the time. What is my purpose in life? What is my purpose in life? Well, if you can't find your purpose in life, I'm going to tell you one thing, and I'm going to quote Robert Bryan. The purpose of life is a life with purpose, which means get off your ass and do something. You do that, you will find what your purpose in life is. And your purpose is to live life. Okay? Live life. And do it with purpose. Okay? So it's not that you get up in the morning and or you wake up and you look, oh my God, it's sunshine, and roll over and go back to sleep and go into depression and whatever else you got going on. I don't want to face the day. If you have a medical issue, go get it taken care of. If it's just that you just are procrastinating, don't want to get off your ass and get out of bed, that's something entirely different. Get up and do something. People who have purpose in their life, they get up, they make their bed, they get dressed, they get ready for the day, they go through a routine, and they set up this routine. They don't get bored. They have things to do. I'm one of those people. I'm a homemaker, and I get up and I have projects I do all the time, and I have a long list of projects, but then other projects come in and out, and you can see them on Facebook. go ahead and look up my name, Nancy Zilversmit, on Facebook, and you'll see them because I'll put them up there. I had somebody ask me this last week, what is there that you do not do? I said, well, I can't have kids anymore. And they said, well, neither can I. So try answering that again. And I went, okay, I'm not a nuclear scientist. And they just, the people in conversation just started laughing about that. But I will attack other projects, and I will get up in the morning and I will have a purpose. I will do things, and my list is flexible, and it does change, and it has to be because I have family and I have other people that I deal with all the time. So if you get up and you do things, it will give your life meaning. It'll give you the confidence to reach out to your dreams and goals, and you've got to set those. Go back to the manifestation piece. Dreams and goals, go back to that. That's several weeks ago. And it will give you purpose, and the purpose will change. It will change, and it will change with your needs and the needs of the world. If you're thinking more global, then your global purpose in life is going to be different from your purpose in your inner circle, but it's still purpose. And you may have more than one purpose going on at a time. You may have your self purpose, you may have your inner circle, your family, and you may have your friends' purpose, you may have community purpose, religious purpose if you're in a religious community, and go into the global scale. So, and some people, it may just stay with that inner circle of friends and family. So it depends on what your purpose is in that time of your life. And the other purpose of life is experiencing your life, okay? And experience what matters. Experiences matter more than having things, okay? What are you going to remember at the end of your life? You're going to remember the experiences. And they're going to have more meaning to you than the physical stuff that you owned or didn't own. It's going to mean more to you than your collection of cars. It's going to mean more to you than your jewelry. So what did you do with your life? What experiences have you had? And when you decide that life is an experience, you will go through life eagerly, you will do it without fear, and even if you do have fear, you stop and then take your step forward where it is you need to go. And do the experiences. Believe me, I remember and I pull a lot of my stories from experiences, not from what I own. I don't pull it from my collection of books. I don't pull it from what I'm selling on eBay. I don't pull it from the fact that I have a house. These things will come and go. I've lived in people's attics before when I was much, much, much younger. I've lived on military bases. I've lived in this country and other countries. And it's just like, what experiences did I bring back from those? And those are what matters the most. So experience matters. And getting back to values. You need to identify what your values are. And this is so that you can figure out who you are. Okay, we've talked about purpose. Now we're going to talk about who are you. Identify your values. Identify your values. Follow your values. Okay, if once you identify them, if you follow your values, you're not following your values. They're not your values. But when you follow them, they help you to make decisions. It's like we talked in the news articles that about the Boy Scouts. Okay, their values seem to change every time they get hit with a lawsuit, but their values, their main value is that you have to believe in God. That is one of their values. And they follow that, and it helps them make decisions, whether the decision is right or wrong. It helps you to make decisions. But what does that do when you start to make decisions? It makes you a more authentic you, okay? And when you are a more authentic you, you become a more confident you, okay? It boosts your confidence if you are being who you are. Know your values, identify them, follow them, make decisions according to your values. And these may change, again, in different periods of our life. These may change, but you will be more authentic, more true to yourself. You will be more confident, okay? And you'll also be more true to others as well, because they will see what it is, who you are, and maybe they will like who you are. Maybe they won't. Maybe there'll be a challenge in your life, but it's all an experience. So take in the experiences, and the experiences can become, they can be positive and they can be negatives. So what are the basic, and I went out there and I did some research, and there were a lot of websites that had the same basics as far as to what matters in life. And their basics were, and I'm going to read this list. The basics were wealth, and they had different different descriptions as to wealth, whether it was the finances, whether it was getting out of debt, whether it was your wealth was not counted in money, and it just, so it had different descriptions. Your health, taking care of your health, wherever you are at with your health, improving your health. So these are what matters, and wealth was at the top, and then health, and then relationships. And relationships could be family, could be friends, could be lovers, could be anything, could be work partners. So relationships. And then contribution and achievement. What are you contributing to the world? What are you contributing to your inner circle? What are you achieving? Are you contributing and achieving at the same time? And the other thing is what has meaning for you? What has meaning? And it's a little different from what matters, but what has meaning, okay? And happiness. The bottom of the list is happiness. And I looked at this at a lot of the lists, and that one came in at the bottom. Well, I think that, it should have been moved up the list a little bit, because happiness is a mental state, and it's easier to achieve than some of these other things. But if you have happiness, you have meaning, you have achievement, you have relationships, if you have happiness, and you have your health, and you have your wealth and happiness. So I think happiness needs to go up the list. They put it down at the bottom on several of these lists that I looked at. And so you can adjust accordingly to where you think that should be. An activity with purpose gives you happiness. An activity with purpose will increase your mental happiness. It's like I take on my little projects, okay, and I do them with purpose. When you have a car, and this one is the last project that I just worked on, when you have a car and people get into your car and they're saying, I can't even tell if your headlights are on, and I get out of the car and I look, yeah, my headlights are on. Well, one of them looks brighter than the other, and I don't even think your headlights are on, and they don't go out far enough on the road, and you need to replace the whole headlight assembly. And it's just like, okay, I priced those assemblies, I talked to people, and I decided I was going to do this activity, and I was doing it with purpose. One, I didn't want to pay over $200 to have somebody replace my assemblies for me, and that's without the labor. That's just for the parts. And two, I think I can do this myself. So get out there, look at YouTube, plug the right words in, and the right words were my headlights were blurry. Plug the right words in, and all of this information came up, which I studied. All of this information. I did end up using 2 different techniques. And what it did is it removed all the scratches, all the oxidation, all the yellowness, all the crap, and polished everything down, and then sealed it, and then put another polish over the top of that, which will protect it for the next 2 years. These headlights had not been done. The car's from 2001. This is 2015. The headlights have not been done in all that time. And now they are nice and clear and smooth, and you can definitely see me coming down the road. It was an activity with purpose. It corrected something, and it did give me some happiness and fulfillment. I did post the before and after pictures, and it gave me some meaning. Okay, it gave me some meaning. It gave me happiness. It gave me fulfillment. Example of an activity with purpose. Not a big one. It was a little quickie one, but for me, it gave me purpose and fulfillment. And an activity that has no purpose to it is a meaningless activity. Okay? An activity with no purpose is meaningless. And you have to figure that one out for yourself. So in the meantime, what matters? Celebrate your life. A lot of people don't do that. Celebrate your life, whether it's little rituals like the guy that wanted to be baptized to celebrate his change in his life. Celebrate your life. If it's like, okay, I hit my goal, I am going to go buy a dress, celebrate. Treat yourself, love yourself, treat yourself. If it's you just graduated from college, go out and have a little celebration, whatever it is. It could be little stuff. It could be big stuff. It could be your kid spelled his words correctly and got an A on his little spelling test in 3rd grade. Celebrate with that person. And that's a memory. That's an experience, okay? Do what you can. Do what you can. And experience what you can. And it may be that you have to unstuff your life, declutter your life, get down to the things that matter. We have a lot of things that don't matter in our life. We have a lot of junk. We are the biggest accumulators of crap that there are out there. And if you get past the crap, you get out of from underneath the crap. And believe me, I've been in hoarder's home. I was married to a hoarder for a while. And you get rid of the crap, okay, in your life. And clutter may be relationships. It may be friends who are not really friends. It may be actual physical things going on in your life. It may be emotional. Whatever the clutter is, get it out of your life. And then you will get down to what matters. So really, really think about what matters to you. There are several lists out there, and I'm not going to go through those lists, but there were several out there. When they talk to people that are dying, what matters in their life? It's usually not the physical stuff. It's the what did I not do things? What did I not experience? What did I not say? Okay, so if you die suddenly, what would you miss the most? What would you miss the most? And ask yourself that question. Even though you may be healthy and in the prime of your life, no matter what age you are, what would you miss the most if you died suddenly? Okay? And this is why we have a lot of lost souls that are stuck here that need help passing over sometimes, because they can't let go of something or someone. And we've even had spirits in I've talked about years ago, where they couldn't let go of the control of certain people, and they even tried to control them and what they do and stuff, and or they couldn't let go of a certain chair. We had a couple like that. We had a gentleman in a Confederate uniform that wouldn't let go of this antique chair. We had to get him passed over. We had an old lady that had her sewing chair, which was passed down. She wouldn't let go. So, and it's really weird stuff sometimes that they won't let go of. So if you die suddenly, what would you miss the most? Okay? And so take care of that business while you're alive. Take care of that business while you're alive. What would be your biggest regret? What would be your biggest regret? And the thing is try not to have any regrets in your life. Experience the good, the bad. Things happen, crap happens, but don't have any regrets. Let go of it. Let go of it. And it happened. It was a lesson. Could you change it? Is there something that you can do to change the situation now? If not, let go of it. Sometimes if it's dealing with people, you can't change them because they don't want to be changed. Some will accept forgiveness, and some will accept making that friendship again because they miss you. Okay, so what would you miss the most? What regrets do you have? What would be the biggest regrets? So take care of those things. I don't have regrets. And I even have that tattooed. I have that tattooed up on my arm like that. Life with no regrets. I can't get that on the camera. Okay. But it's just like that reminds me, life with no regrets. I've had a lot of hard times. I've had a lot of good times. And the thing is, I've had a lot of experiences, and then I've had some that I wish I never had. But no regrets. No regrets. Let go. Do you need to redefine your life priorities? Sometimes in order to figure out what matters, do we need to redefine our priorities? I was reading an article this morning about how kids are brought up nowadays, redefining the priorities, unhook them, okay, from technology. Take them camping, which my daughter just did. She works on a computer and phones all day in a financial office. My son-in-law, he's an IT pro and a programmer, and just alone those two needed to unhook and get away. But 5 kids also very technology savvy. 5 kids, all the way down to the one that's a little over a year old. Very technology savvy and very plugged in. They unplugged everybody, and they decided the priority was that you needed to get away. So they did. They went off camping. It's also said that if you unplug from all the technology and go out into nature, it resets your brain, and it also resets things like your emotions and your sleep schedule, and it helps reset everything back so that when you do go back into the daily world, which is your life, you are able to function. It's like a reboot, and you are able to function again. You're able to reset your priorities, okay? Who or what have you been neglecting the most? Think about that. That may take some time because a lot of times we don't realize that we are actually neglecting something in our life. It may not be other people. It may be we're neglecting ourselves. We're neglecting our own needs. We're neglecting our yard. We're neglecting our house. You're neglecting your friends, your family, your loved ones. What are you neglecting in your life? Your health? Your health, and that's a big one for people. Have you neglected your health? What are you neglecting the most? And you may have to go back and look at some of these other lists of priorities and things about what matters. Health is a big one. If you don't have your health, it has an effect on not only you, but everyone around you having to deal with that. And I got into a discussion last night with a student and about health, and we were talking about how often people get sick and why they get sick, and sometimes it's lifestyle, sometimes it's environmental. I had environmental issues where I've had to get away from that on several occasions, even to the point where I've had to quit a job. I've had to, and that's been more than once, that's been several times, working in a fiberglass factory, working in a warehouse with printing lamination. I've done the gamut. Or working in a New Age store where they constantly burned incense. And it wasn't what I would consider the best quality incense because it would affect my respiratory system, my throat, and even breakouts on my skin. And even though I requested they either tone it down or start airing the place out, they continued. And I said, okay, I can't work here. The environment is causing me health issues. So you need to look at what you're neglecting. If you're neglecting your health by where you work, where you live, if you're not, if you're not keeping cleanliness, and even that, you may have to change things. When I had the environmental problem recently with the New Age shop, it's just like, okay, I had to cut back on processed foods because it was affecting that too. I had to cut back on commercial cleaners. I had to cut back on deodorizers. I had to cut back on a lot of things. And I'm talking about the ones that spray into the environment, not the type you use under your armpit, because I already use natural stuff for that. But I had to switch things to natural. I had to make my own laundry detergent. My boys can still use the commercial stuff. I had to make mine. So it's just like, what are you neglecting the most? Take care of it. Take care of it. If something comes up, take care of it. Okay? All right. And I will see you next week.